I go right back to the Shakespearean Romeo and Juliet situation with Father Lawrence trying to use it for a benign purpose, but then the communications went wrong.
We've got to track him down. His real name's Edmund Wade Davis.
Right.
And he's somewhere. He was born in British Columbia, Canada, so I do not know where he may be now. But we'll try to find him.
Yes, because his work sounds extremely interesting. And, of course, apart from the African herbs, which they would have known about and brought over with them into modern Voodoo and Santeria, the whole idea of using fish toxin, because we think again about those little frogs that have got such powerful toxins on their backs that they're used for poison arrows. And the sort of, marine creatures may well have, like the pufferfish, may well have all sorts of strange chemical properties. And you never know that from something which had a dark side, like zombieism, once it's investigated properly and scientifically, you've got a whole new field of painkillers. So good can come out of a dark practice once it's approached with a scientific attitude.
Carlos in North Hollywood, California. Hi.
Hey, guys. Good evening. I had one question I was going to ask, but I think I'd rather ask this. That's about a possible out-of-body experience.
Okay.
I used to have a lot of dreams when I was younger, like up to teenage age, of either flying or floating over my neighborhood. And these views that I got in my dreams just couldn't have been anything else than, somebody in the air looking down. And I was wondering if you thought that was astral projection or out-of-body experience. And also had a poltergeist experience in a place where I used to live. I'm just wondering why it happened, why I was watching my cats being thrown against the door, them running away, and something picking them up.
Well, that we can't explain, but in terms of the OBE, it sounds like an out-of-body experience, Lionel.
Yes, I would think it very definitely is. There have been good reports, very well authenticated, of patients who were anesthetized and who experienced out-of-body feelings and out-of-body visions by finding that they were floating up from the operating table, looking down at the surgeons and the nurses who were making them well, and then looking around from that very high position, just like Carlos has described, and seeing things on high shelves which the patient on the operating table could not possibly see. In fact, a piece of emergency equipment kept on a high shelf out of the way of the surgeon and his assistants. And then describing this in detail in the recovery ward, and the nurse being so interested and impressed that she had gone back into the theater when it was empty and had looked up and said, yes, it's exactly as the patient described it during this out-of-body experience. So I think that these things can happen. And there are a number of psychologists who work on the problem of when we think to ourselves, where am I sitting now? And we have an awareness of the chair underneath us and the desk in front of us. And then what we find is that sometimes we can almost imagine, as we do in a dream, that we are outside ourselves looking at a man in a chair in front of the desk. And then you come back into yourself again. Now, this whole idea of mapping our own physical presence seems to link with the out-of-body experience where you get outside yourself and look down at yourself and at the surroundings there. It's as if all your sensory input goes with you, with your astral body, because the astral body can't see anything if the physical eyes are lying 6 feet underneath it. And there must be an equivalent in the astral body of our organs of perception. And that opens up an amazing range for scientific experiment in the psychology departments of universities.
Next up, Susan in Florida. You're on with Lionel Fanthorpe. Hi there.
Good morning, gentlemen. What a fascinating show, and I'm thrilled to be talking to you.
He's one of a kind, Susan, isn't he?
Oh, you
I'm
both
very
are.
honored, and it's lovely of you to phone in. Thank you.
Thank you. Just wondering, in talking about time machines in particular, I have the Florida UFO Research and Study Group in Vero Beach. I'm the director, and I started it in 1992. And my main topic of interest has always been the contactees, or people that have communicated on a person-to-person basis, shaken the hands of people that originate on other planets or have come from other planets to this planet. And so in doing my research, I've studied many, many different topics. One of them, I read a book by Preston Nichols. You're probably familiar with him, called the Montauk Project. And in the book, it talks about 3 receivers. They're called FRR-24s that were used by von Neumann in the Philadelphia experiment and as part of the Montauk Project.
Yeah.
And to my surprise, when I read a portion of the book there, they said there were only, the report indicated that FRR-24s were only released when the government agreed to sell them to a world communications company. There were 3 such instances listed. One FRR-24 went to RCA, one went to ITT on the West Coast, and another to Vero Beach, Florida. Well, we have a very, very well-known contactee who wrote the book From Outer Space to You, and who also wrote the book The High Bridge Incident by the name of Howard Menger. And he was the only person that I thought that could possibly have one of these receivers. And they happen to be very, very good friends of mine, now in their 80s, 86. Connie and Howard Menger are 86 years old each. And when I asked Howard, do you have this receiver, this time machine where you could basically go anywhere you wanted to go, forward or backward in time, he said, yes, as a matter of fact, I do. I thought that was unbelievable.
We need to get it.
Yeah,
well, it's probably dusty in a corner somewhere. Just
They all
falling
are,
apart.
yeah.
Yes. But this, I thought that was the most fascinating. And I asked him, have you gone forward or backward in time? Because if you read any of his books, especially From Outer Space to You, he talks about different things that he's done that are just unbelievable, different abilities that he had or things that he used to practice he no longer practices. When I asked him, have you gone forward or backward in time, he says yes. And I said, what was it like? He said it was very uncomfortable. That's all he told me.
Wow.
But he does have that machine. And I just want to say hello to all the first group members. You have no idea how many people within our group listen to your show.
Oh.
They're dedicated listeners.
They're there. Thanks,
That's lovely.
Susan.
That's lovely to hear, and thank you. I'm fascinated by this because, particularly fascinated, it's a very, very exciting account, and we're very grateful to you. I'm sure George is as well for telling us about it. But I came across a very similar instance here in the UK, and this was something which a jeweler. Not just a buyer and seller of jewels, but a guy who did all sorts of brilliantly intricate craft work on making a jewelry. So he was a first-class, she was a technician. He got all kinds of skills. And he had a machine, which I've actually seen, which he claimed was a time machine.
I want to ask you about John Teeter, the time traveler, when we come back, Lionel, and we'll take final calls on Coast to Coast AM. Well, the CERN Collider has been turned on now. The experiment, of course, not going to be done for a while, but it has now been turned on. On our next Coast to Coast program, we'll talk about some of the implications of these experiments with Charles Seif, the author of Decoding the Universe, on our next Coast to Coast show. Well, welcome back. We're going to take your phone calls. Lionel, when's the last time you were out there at Rennes Les Chateaux?
Well, I was there not so long back when we were filming the Discovery Channel series on castles. And, it's an amazing place, this Rennes, and the mystery there. What did Berenger Saunier, the priest, really find? Was it a secret? Was it membership of an elite secret society that he was admitted to? or did he find physical treasure?